Welcome to LatB, the only podcast that comes with a free Bandits bonus.
Express delivery included.
LatB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LatB podcast.
Welcome back. Episode 203. We got a pay-per-view coming out of Brazil, 13th card bout. But, before we get into all that, we got to talk about a little bit of the Twitterverse. There isn't much news, so we're going to be able to dive deep in and on this show. It is going to be a pay-per-view, so we do tend to get heavy on these. You better buckle up for some free money, because it's going to come your way. But before all that, how have you been, Cheney? How has the MMA universe treated you lately?
MMA verse, I have to be honest, I haven't been paying attention. Since we last talked, I haven't even looked at the MMA verse. I was Game of Thrones deep, and then I think I watched some trash TV. I keep debating on whether or not I want to go see the new Avengers movie, if I want to see it in the big screen or not. So, yeah, no MMA. What's been going on? You have to tell me, or how are you?
Interesting, because I have really been not abreast of or a foot of what's going down in the MMA verse, other than Donald Cerrone, still some of that Greg Hardy talk. There's been some more bouts signed as of late, heavy hitters, but really I feel like this 237 pay-per-view has been kind of the bouts we've been waiting for the longest, with Jose Aldo being in there with Volkanovski, as well as Rose versus Andrade, which headlines it. But besides that, there has just been I guess some embedded type of stuff. The stuff I've seen related to this card that was pretty funny.
I watched the embeddeds.
They were good.
But I always, my wife likes the embeddeds. I will say it's the surefire way. It would be my piece of advice to the UFC is to make those longer, more extensive, and they could make them a half hour an episode.
I agree.
And the more they do that, the more I think they get the casual fans. My wife's actually interested in watching the people fight, no matter who it is that they do the embedded on.
Right.
She's curious about their fight when they come up. She's emotionally invested, and I think she likes getting emotionally invested in both sides. Like, she thought she was all in love with Rose watching it, and then she saw Andrade with her wife at the grocery store.
Nice.
And she's like, oh my gosh, she seems tough. Like,
yeah, she is. She is tough. But the funnest part that I caught in the embedded was where Jared Cannonier was eating lunch, and there was a nice little young girl that came up and was like, oh, the best fighter in the world is actually Anderson. And he's like, what? And he is about to beat this girl within an inch of her life. Not really, but he ended up being like, no, I'm about to fight that guy. I'm better than him. I'm going to beat him. And he was just one of those moments where it's like, I don't care if you're an 8-year-old kid or a 30-year-old man, you about to get hit. That's kind of the eyes I saw in Cannonier. And that's the mentality you want. You want to be the type of guy that'll fight a kid on zero notice. That's a joke. That is a joke.
no minute notice.
So that was what I took away from it. Cannonier's ready to go. I wouldn't even be hanging out with kids. I'm just thinking, especially the cafeteria, all the germs in there. Deuces. I'm staying far and away from those type of places. Eating lunch, I ain't even touching my mouth when I'm around a school. I ain't trying to get sick. I ain't about that life. So I was a little tentative on the whole grand scheme of that whole embedded part.
I really do feel that sometimes when there's a kid behind me or something at the movies or at the store, I really do feel like 300, like when he goes up to the lepers and he has to ask them, like, can I have you see the future? And they're all like, I just, it's horrible.
I feel like Leonidas, who's just like, Gah! And kicks him right in the chest. It's like, get out of here, kid. Get away from me. Don't touch me. So it is interesting
that is funny.
It all works.
Yeah, that was an image of you kicking a kid in the chest, like Leonidas down to
his little arms just trying to grab
infinite. Speaking of 300, you know who's in that?
I can.
That sexy ass queen, Cersei Lannister.
Really?
Yeah, isn't she the HBIC in that?
Wow,
Isn't
you might
she the
be.
wife in that?
Wow.
So
I just
it
remember
all
the
comes
boobs
back
of that
around.
part.
Which-
That's it.
Yeah, Game of Thrones has been heavy. I've been thinking about that too. But
So you must have seen the One Girl, One Cup shot that's been going around town.
no.
Oh, with, who is it?
With the Starbucks one?
With the Starbucks. Wow, big oopsie. HBO officially come out and said, that was a mistake. And pretty big one. Pretty rough one. Interesting.
I keep hearing, the Chin from Fighter and the Kid and Below the Belt, the producer, he's the young Jamie of those shows. He says it's product placement. That's his conspiracy theory on it.
I saw that there was supposedly estimates that the amount of free media that Starbucks has received has been about $2.3 million worth of media. As far as retweets, interactions, and just Starbucks being hashtagged around the world due to this. And oopsie, you ain't gonna see no Starbucks around here. They don't pay me enough.
I just can't even believe that. People are like, oh, it goes through so many people's hands. It's impossible that happened. And have you ever looked at movie mistakes, you guys? Do yourself a favor.
Yes.
As far back as you want to go, they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yep.
I still look at part of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and I'm like, did he mean to do that? Like, is that camp? Did he mean to put those certain scenes in, like where you can see the car on a rail? Like it's just bright enough that you can see that.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Another good one.
Dang.
I think it's Back to the Future 3 when they're on the train about to leave at the end with the last couple minutes. The kid really weirdly waves somebody over off in the distance and then points at his private pots. I'm assuming to tell people to pee, but you can see it right next to the doc's head, I think. It's really, wow. And nobody saw that in the initial run of things. One of those backgrounds. I always like to look back, and there's obviously a bunch of loops on YouTube that will show some of those as well.
Yeah. You broke down that.
It's the only one I can think of where I was like, oh, that was really weird. That was a background one that really stuck out. So,
well, there's like the kid in 3 Men and a Baby. They say there's a ghost in the scene or something.
Yes.
It's a reflection of a kid. There's
behind a sheet, but that's all ghost stories. That gets into some deep ass ghost stories, which we can go there.
But some people say it was just like a really cardboard cutout of Ted Danson or something.
Really?
It.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Yeah, like
That's
I guess
great.
The actor, I guess it was like 3 actors in it, and one of them was an actor. Like in the show, he played an actor, and there was a cardboard cutout of him in the show, and somebody just moved it like behind the movie onto another set or whatever, but you could see it through the glass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the whole ins and outs. I might be going into too much detail, but see, I just broke it down too. We're giving you breakdowns. I have nothing to do with fights,
but we should get to the fights because it's going to be 13 whole fights.
A timestamp. Like some people are like, when do you guys not bullshit and talk about the fights? I'm just going to tell you, like it's usually around 10 minutes. We usually bullshit for 10 minutes. If we get long-winded, sometimes I do, we'll go at very max 16. So maybe an average of 13 minutes sometimes. I don't know. But we can get right into it. It's a long fight card.
It is a long fight card out of Brazil. It's been a lot of fight weeks in a row. So it's been research heavy.
And we didn't even give anything away about Game of Thrones.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
I know people are all Cincy. I know they're all Cersei about it. I know they're taking it all Cersei Lannister.
But this Brazilian night is something that we have to, take into consideration most of the time about the judges. If we go somewhere where the judges tend to be skewed and we see some of the worst cards we'll see in a long time, it is Brazil. So just one of the things to take into mind. We tend to make money off of some of these dirty type of splits, and there's quite a bit of them on this card. I feel like it's going to be a betting friendly card. Not too many that aren't, but this one has some heavy odds each way and then really close bouts for right reasons. Starting off the night, though, we're going to start it at 135 pounds with the bantamweight division. Talia Bernardo over debuting Melissa Gatto. This is a 6-0-2 in Gatto type of fighter. I don't know why she lost those draws or whatever, or she got them turned over. I couldn't remember, but I ended up catching her fight, and she's fighting regional women in there. She had a couple fun body shot finishes, essentially, in one of her competitions, but to me it looked more like her opponent gassed than anything. She throws together, actually, 3 and 4 punch combinations really well. She'll go to the leg, body, and eventually end up going to the head. But again, the regional competition that she was fighting was super low level. I just didn't like what I took necessarily away from Gatto. I think that she might just be a local another young lady who looks good on in front of a camera and can do well. But against an actual UFC fighter, even though it's Bernardo, who 5-3, got 2 losses in the UFC to Aldana, and also losing a TKO to Marion Renault. Last beating Sarah Morris in a decision. She likes to keep it striking, has a good Muay Thai clinch. Gas Tank isn't that good as well. Both of these girls, Gas Tank isn't that good, but Bernardo throws a left kick to the body that's actually pretty good. Ugh, I wouldn't even say pretty good, but it's what she uses as a weapon a lot in her fights. She throws 1 and 2 punch combinations, not as much as Gatto, but she throws a little bit more power on them, so they do tend to hurt the opponents. Her punches just don't really have power. She really just overwhelms you with volume. But I do think that the veteranship plays in Bernardo's favor at 32 years old. She's had a couple more fights, but they've been at higher level, going a decision to Aldana. She just knows how to dig deep in that 3rd round. So give me the veteran over the debut Gatto. Bernardo, there's no way in hell that I'm going to be putting over minus 400 for Bernardo anywhere against anyone. She's just not that level of fighter. So I'm going to end up picking Bernardo decision. And as far as DraftKings 9,300, there's no way I'm putting Bernardo anywhere. And Gatto, probably not at 6,900. Are you taking anybody in this fight? And why? Usually here, we stay away from the first fight of the night. And this is probably that same situation.
I have Bernardo decision as well, but I think this is a big fat stay away. I guess also as well. I don't know anything about the other girl, which goes into my other rule. Stick with what you know. I don't think you play Bernardo for 9-4 because I have her going to decision. So if anything, dog or pass.
Right. For 6'9", how much do you think you're going to expose yourself?
I'm not playing either person.
I totally agree. I'm going to have a big fat stay away on that one. At 135 pounds, the bantamweight male division has a profile fight with Ronnie Barsolis coming in against debuting Carlos Hassan Quiros. Does he have a nickname there? El Perro Malo, the bad dog.
Wow.
So
I thought the whole thing was impressive.
Thank you.
I don't even.
Woo! Trying. The Peruvian fighter is actually a short notice replacement for Barrios. I can't think of who he was going to fight, but it was definitely not a debut type of fighter. This is on about 2 weeks short notice for the young 22-year-old. Actually, the 10-3-2 debuting Peruvian is... He's got fight in him. He moves forward, has good head movement, throws actually 3 and 4 punch combinations well. Going into the second round. Level of competition was 1-0, 2-0. I think his highest level opponent was maybe in that like 5-7 or 5-6 type of range. So it was middling Peruvian competition at that. And there was times in there that I saw Perro Malo's kickboxing fights, but he was fighting an egg on legs. I mean, this guy who did not look like a fighter at all, and he ended up finishing him pretty quick, fast, and in a hurry. The guy ended up taking his mouthpiece out, walking right over to the ice cream stand, and kept asking people for money. So that's the type of level of fighters that Perro has been fighting. It works against these regional level guys, but Ronnie Barsolis, we've seen jiu-jitsu black belt, highest level, but he really likes his striking, some capoeira style in there. Over and looping punches, but he throws them with such conviction and such disregard for whether he gets taken to the ground that they tend to land. And on the ground, he's usually going to take care of himself there. But the debuter hasn't seen anybody on this caliber. So there's a reason there's a big favorite. Short notice, he's going to end up getting another fight eventually in here. UFC's looking for Peruvian, a lot of these other Latin America guys. So he's going to have another fight. But I am going to side with a TKO round number 1 for Barcelos. I think a lot of people see this coming as well. Who do you have and why?
I had TKO as well. I just think for some reason Barcelos is going to take pity and submit him after he hurts him very bad instead of just swing away because of the short notice. And I think the caliber is just that much different in level for him, almost like a sparring partner to take pity. I just imagine him taking pity. Barcelos, also round 1. Either way you cut it, I think that's a good prop bet.
So, what I am going to say, though, with Perro Malo is this young man gets in your face. Regardless of the competition level that I saw him in there, he's going to go in there to get finished or not. There was a couple brawls he had in there, and he moved good inside the pocket. So, this is one of those type of guys that has nothing to lose, which makes him just as dangerous.
Yeah.
Everyone has him losing, so he's like, all right, whatever. I'm going to go in there and knock this guy out. What's the worst that happens? I lose and... nothing. Best thing that happens, he finishes the minus 470 favorite. There's some big discrepancies in lines. And this one, I feel like rightfully so, is there more so than Bernardo earlier in the card already. The one fight before this. So Barcelos on DraftKings is going to be 9,600.
Wow.
Against Carlos Perro Malos, 6,600. I am going to try to put that 9-6 in a couple spots, but it's going to be limited because that's a big price tag. I need to have a bunch of other underdogs and are able to afford him.
Do you think they're going to go out there and swing away for 2 minutes before?
Yes, I think this young man gets in your face and he's like, all right.
Do you think you could use Quiros to afford Barcelos?
No, I don't think this goes into the second. I don't think it goes past the second if it goes.
But do you think he could lay enough points in between, even if he gets 60 punches?
Yeah, man.
I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel like I'm going to play both guys on equal amount of cards.
Interesting. Well, he's going to open up a lot of spots for you later on in the night because 6'6", well, I don't know if we've really seen price tags that low.
No, and he is going to go out there and swing away. And he is going to, I do think it's just going to be stand up until somebody gets clipped. I think it's going to go out there and be a really fast fight. It's going to look like a Cody TJ fight.
I totally agree with that. And also a tricky thing that we got to take into consideration that I'd like that we stayed on this a bit is Perro Malo Carlos here is a southpaw. And he's actually a good southpaw. He's a good southpaw with a good right hook. So it does catch, again, regional guys off, but...
And it's short notice for Barcelos, too.
Yes, well, switch of opponents.
Yeah, which it matters, especially if you're going against, I didn't know who he was fighting before, but a whole different type of fighter. And you got a young kid, a 22-year-old, that is going to try to go out there and leave it all in the first round, which is going to force Barcelos to do the same thing. I don't know. Sometimes that's where we see the shit go down, where they're like, he's the biggest underdog of the night. And, so I think you maybe, even if it's just one card so you can afford everybody else you want to.
Barcelos' former opponent was said Nurmagomedov. So that's who fell out due to injury. So that's who he was training for, a big-time wrestler.
Totally a different kind of fighter. Interesting. Interesting.
Things we got to take consideration, but I don't think you're crazy in what you're saying with having maybe a spot or two of Carlos in there.
Can I tell you what's interesting about the next fight every time we go into it?
Please.
I think it's so crazy that they let Khabib's manager take a fight in the UFC.
Which one? Both of them?
No, Warlley Alves always to me looks a little like
Ali Abdelaziz,
you dirty rat.
That's funny. At 170 pounds.
When I did it, I even felt like I stood with my dick out. Like, that's how Connor stands when he's like, I'm saying this stuff. I'm saying stuff to everyone. Anyway, sorry.
At 170 pounds, Warlley Alves against Sergio Moraes. This is a fun one. We got two Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aces getting in there after it. 12 And 3, Warley Alves at 170 pounds came up through the Latin America division, has had a couple losses only in the UFC to Barbarina, which was a huge underdog back in the day. Kamaru Usman rattled off a couple wins against Tahuri, no longer in the UFC, beat Aliev, and last lost to James Krause in a TKO. You know, I've been betting on James Krause for a long time, and that's just a guy that I think is very underrated. But Warley Alves, the reason he tends to get himself into tough situations is because of his gas tank. He tends to wear it bad in the third round. First and second round, he's a front runner. He does well, but if people really like to get up in Alves' face and clip him a couple times, it really slows down his amount of forward pressure. But on the ground, Warley Alves is one of the few guys who has a win over Colby Covington in a guillotine choke, I believe it was. But that's what Warley Alves is mainly known for, is that deep guillotine whenever you shoot on him. And Sergio Moraes, being a black belt of his own, I don't know how many stripe levels each one of these guys is, but I do feel like Sergio Moraes might have a stripe or two on Alves. I could be off there, but the 14-4 fighter is really come into the UFC and use his striking more than anything. He's also last coming off of a lost decision to Tony Rocco Martin, which I feel like a lot of people are writing off Moraes in this spot because Rocco Martin just went to decision with him, but I'm like, I think Martin's a bigger underdog than you guys understand, and the fact that Moraes went to decision proves a level of toughness, and even Rocco said it himself, like, hey, I hit that dude with everything, and he kept at it in there. The ground game is where Moraes can get it mostly done, but his knees have been shot for a while. He's had multiple surgeries. He's always got wraps on both knees, and you can just see that the movement at a 36 years old and a long life of competing, it's just his toughness is taking him as far as he can absolutely go. And Warley Alves needs to get back on a win. On the ground, I don't think that guillotine's going to work. I do think that striking-wise, Alves has more power, but a little bit more looping punches and is willing to take that shot to give it, where Sergio Moraes more picks you with a good jab at distance, has a good 2 and 3 punch combination, but is more of a finesse striker in there. His is much more movement-based in there, where Alves moves forward when they strike. On the ground, they're going to neutralize each other. I think it turns into a kickboxing match, and I'm going to have a dirty-ass split. I think it goes 2-1. Alves wins the first 2, loses the third. I'm going to probably end up being a little wary on this. This is a coin flip in my eyes, but give me the slight favorite, -145. Warley Alves decision. Who do you have and why?
The other side of the coin, I think Sergio Moraes, even at 36, he's just looking a little better and better out there every time. And going to decision with Rocco Martin, just like you were saying, that's
not
nothing
bad
to sneeze at.
Yep.
That's the exact kind of same, though, as the James Krause, like going against him. But getting brutally finished is a little different. It was the right amount of time ago, 8 months and 1 week, if there is, for that kind of brutal finish that it was against Warley Alves. But Sergio Moraes, he's just an old dog in there. I think he's just as slick, and usually when Warley Alves goes against a grinding type guy like Sergio has been of lately, he tends to lose. He tends to gas out, just like you said. I have it going the exact other way. I give the first round to Alves, but I think the other 2 sneak out to Sergio Moraes. I think they're kind of smart here, the UFC, with letting their certain guys cross over each other, because they have a lot of local fighters versus local fighters, because they know those Brazilians get... Like, this is a good way to amp them up. You give them a Brazilian winner, so even if you have one of their favorites, like Sergio Moraes losing or Alves losing, you have the other guy kind of filling the hole. I know it's typical to go with the younger guy. I just thought Sergio's looked dangerous in there, and I know he's a ground specialist, but I think his hands have looked really well and crisp. Yep. So, yeah, Moraes decision... Ugh.
Interesting.
And I'm surprised Warley's so young. I actually thought he was they were around the
34?
same age.
Yeah, totally. Warley Alves, we both have him winning the first round, and we both have Moraes winning the third. It's all up to that second round.
And we're going to be fighting about it that night, too.
100%.
I don't know. How much do punches matter? Well, the takedown. How many punches matter? Alves landed more punches, but Moraes got a takedown.
So, for Warley Alves on DraftKings, you're going to end up paying $8,600. Moraes is going to be 7,600.
Either of us could be arguing either side too.
Oh yeah,
because
totally.
We're as flaky as all UFC fans. It depends, but we're not always biased toward our guy. It could just be toward our own opinion.
Definitely. Do you?
And I could switch beforehand at weigh-ins.
We gotta watch weigh-ins for sure. This is one of the things we also have to take into consideration with weigh-ins in Brazil. We've seen it happen before where sometimes the hot water doesn't work. And their weight cut might matter for that. Sometimes their food that they brought over doesn't get on the right plane and they can't find the proper meals. So weigh-ins do matter. All this little stuff does matter when we go to...
Didn't you find it interesting that Jessica Andrade said she tends to gain a few pounds just being in the hotel and getting all bloated? And I've always heard that from like my mom or sisters or wife, like people that they stay in hotels and they're like, oh, I always retain water in a hotel.
Interesting. Get a dehumidifier in that bitch.
Huh.
Like you're a fighter. Get one of those BJ Penn tents.
So
like
she
back
says
in the day.
This is her easiest weight cut ever because she's home. So anyway.
We'll see. But
your favorite fighter.
Definitely.
Next.
Do you think you're gonna end up putting Mariah on any of your DraftKings cards for 6,000 or 7,600?
Yes, but I won't go too heavy.
I agree. I kind of thinking I'm going to stay away like I'm saying.
Maybe
I think
like
it turns into a
20%.
striking bout and goes to decision. So therefore, Alves at 8,600 is not worth it at all. If anything, it's only a shot on Mariah there. So on to one of favorite fighters. I mean, we got a couple of favorite fighters in here. Woo! Brazil's bringing in the heat at 125 pounds. A flyweight bout between Priscila Cachoeira against debuting Luna Carolina. Cachoeira is definitely 8-2, only losses in the UFC to Valentina Shevchenko in a humongous beating, then last losing to Meatball McCann in a decision 2 weeks ago. Against the debuters, 5-1 record. She lost her one of her debuts, I believe it was by a finish, but she won her Contender Series fight 8 months ago via decision on the Contender Series for Dana White. She beat Marley Lima, did end up catching that fight, and it was, WMMA decision, regional competition. UFC does find the best women out there, but the output wasn't that high. Both of these ladies look like they could both be on a regional scene, and even there, at the top levels, they would maybe not win the belt at some of those regional scenes. So, moving forward, the young Brazilian 25-year-old, she has heavy punches, but her head movement just isn't all that good. She does have good body and head kicks. I think she does throw a straight to the body turning kick. But she's a decision type of fighter. She doesn't have tons of power in her hands, so it's kill you by 1,000 cuts, and a lot of her fights do end up going to decision because of that reason. She does have a TKO in there, but it was against an 0-0 fighter, and it was, again, that volume that took her out of there. Cachoeira, though, a lot of people think that she's one of the lowest fighters in the whole UFC roster, and she keeps her head straight up. She, again, just moves forward with not tons of power and tries to overwhelm you on the ground. Didn't see much from Carolina, so I couldn't tell you how I felt on the ground other that she didn't get up the one time I saw her go down there. And Cachoeira, same. Exact same. I never really seen her get up. Against Valentina Shevchenko, that was to get in the UFC, and that's a big mismatch for her. But her last fight against Meatball Molly McCann, I think that she's on the lower end of the competition spectrum as well. So the fact that Meatball looks so good in there, Cachoeira just can go into the third round, but really slows down, and again, not tons of finishing power. I see a decision written all over this disgusting fight. I have Cachoeira right now, decision. She's an underdog, but I don't know. I'm gonna go Carolina. But I do think that the lights, the debuting, being hometown, I think that this stuff matters. Cachoeira losing 2 decisions, one decision and losing to Shevchenko, I think that teaches her something. She missed weight, I believe, against McCann as well, so we got to watch weigh-ins as well. Carolina, decision. This is a dirty-ass split for all the wrong reasons. No way I touch this no matter what the prices are on DraftKings. Big fat stay away. I could wake up and go Cachoeira Give me the debuter. What do you think about this one? I feel dirty.
I have Cachoeira decision as well. I don't think she should be an underdog. I actually think she's being disrespected here. And her last fight with Molly was so close, and I might be wrong, but I feel like they were fighting in Molly's hometown. And she came a long way. She didn't get to show anything against Valentina Shevchenko. It was a complete mismatch, and even if she just stayed in there and took a beating as long as Homegirl did, like, that fight had to be stopped. She was like, beat on me another 5 minutes. Piss on me, beat me, hoe me down. He was like, whatever. He didn't even care. So, yeah. I have Cachoeira decision. I don't know anything about this other girl, so it's also stick with what I know. I might have Cachoeira on 1 or 2. I don't know anything about this other girl's. I just look at the record of the people that she's beat, and some of them had the same record as me, so take that for what it is. I don't understand how. I think just because she beat Lima, what is that, Lima's wife or sister? Is it one of the Lima brothers? Are they related? Like, who did she... I don't know why she's so heavy, and sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe they're from the same place, so a local odds maker knows something, but I just think it's disrespectful to a woman who's in the UFC.
Carolina does have a bit of that killer instinct where they both move forward, though, so this could be a banger, but there's no way that for the debuter at minus 160 I'm going to be putting money on, but 8,900 for the debuter in Luna, Carolina against Cachoeira's 7,300. Think you're on that. Again, I could wake up and go Cachoeira tomorrow, so we got to wait for those final cards we end up putting on that Instagram and Twitter, but be sure to stick around to follow for that. The play, though, on DraftKings is Cachoeira here, and I hate myself for saying that.
I'm going to play Cachoeira. I'm not even messing around. I'm going to
go
play
20%.
20% of my cards.
Definitely. On to a lightweight bout.
I'm going to play her on as many as Marais. That's real. That's real. And I'm going to play her on more than Alves. Take that.
Wow. Well, interesting. At 155 pounds, we have a fight between 2 long-time veterans. Both of these guys are as long in the tooth as you can get in MMA, with Clay Guida against returning BJ Penn. Baby J's coming in here after some domestic dispute issues that arose, and apparently nothing came of those because he's still fighting, and usually the UFC ends up squashing all that kind of stuff. So I haven't really heard much other than it might have been an allegation that might have not been substantiated. So that sucks for him if that's that. Did you ever hear a resolve to that? Because that wasn't that long ago we heard of it.
What I actually heard was that him and his wife were fighting for custody, so it was more like a slander. More than anything.
Right.
Just for her to
say she had it on the record.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look, I officially put it on the books.
Yeah, and so when she goes to court, she could be like, look, Your Honor, he's abusive to the kids, or whatever. Maybe she wants more money. I don't know how all that stuff goes. I'm sure BJ Penn's a big star. Maybe she's thirsty. I don't make the judgment on him yet for that. You know, we do not like people that hit women, but we also don't. We know that some people just use that shit as slander. So I hope for her sake and BJ's sake and the kids' sake, it is slander, honestly. So
the interesting thing in this bout, other than all that, is how long these guys have been fighting. Clay Guida comes in with a 34-18 record. BJ Penn is in here as a multiple champion in multiple weights, fighting all Lyoto Machida back in the day. BJ Penn has not been himself. He's on a 6-fight losing streak, last losing to Uriah Hall, but also Yair Rodriguez in there he lost to, and had just so many notable losses now that a lot of people are saying, why are you coming back? He doesn't need the money. It's just something that gets him going. He was the prodigy for a reason, fastest American to ever receive his black belt, but really hasn't used his jiu-jitsu in the cage for a long time. And if anything, what Ryan Hall showed is just how UFC is in the past. He never evolved with the game, and eventually these young guys built off of what he did. If it wasn't for BJ Penn, Ryan Hall wouldn't be doing the things he did, but that's just kind of where it's gone. So with
And
Clay
let's be
Guida,
real, Ryan Hall, he's good and stuff, but he may not even be UFC caliber. He just beat BJ Penn at
this stage in his life,
20 years old.
exactly, in fight years. But Clay Guida is one of those relics as well. He has evolved a bit more because he's been an alpha male for a while and really just always honed in with that cardio. We know what Clay Guida does in there. Moves his head around like a maniac, throws a good jab, has well-timed takedowns in there, and I was always down for a dirty-ass split. He last lost submission to Charles Oliveira, but Oliveira, compared to BJ Penn, is just leaps and bounds, where BJ Penn has never really had the greatest shot. He did at times have that stepping back trip shot that I really love, but he hasn't really done it in a long time. If anything, BJ Penn's last few game plans has been try to strike, and seen where that's gotten him. He's been eaten alive in there. He is at Nova União, though, in Brazil. Has been for a little while now training. So he's with Jose Aldo and a couple other guys. So BJ Penn is coachable. We've seen him put good game plans together, but he's just can't take a punch like he used to. With all that being said, minus 550 for Clay Guida is just way too much. A lot of people see a finish in this fight. They see BJ Penn being completely spent, and I don't necessarily see that. I see that this being the closest level or the closest at level competition BJ Penn has seen in a while. I think Ryan Hall could beat Clay Guida as well, because Clay Guida traditionally doesn't have tons of power as well. So Guida eventually has to get this fight to the ground, and BJ Penn's awesome off of his back. One of the trickier guys where it would actually work better for Guida to use his wrestling in reverse and pick BJ Penn apart at distance. So I see this being a little bit closer than that. On the ground, BJ Penn always has a shot. Always has a shot. I'm going to end up going Clay Guida, but I don't like those odds. There's no way I'm going to be betting up for him at all. I might take a couple underdog shots on BJ Penn, but give me a decision Clay Guida, just because he stayed way more active and actually proven against younger guys he can still do fairly okay-ish. I don't like this fight, but give me Guida decision. Who do you have and why?
Clay Guida knockout round 1. I just don't think BJ Penn needs to be in there in any way, shape, or form. And he hasn't really shown us. You know, I felt like the last fight was like, okay, this guy's not going to hurt him anywhere, and he's just going to take him to the ground. And anyone that goes to the ground with BJ Penn, BJ's got to win, right? It's BJ Penn. No, it's not good to go against a guy like Clay Guida that's going to stand and bang. I think he can knock him out. I think it's going to go a lot like the Joe Lozon fight. But I also think that flash submission could happen because Clay Guida does get wild as hell. And I think maybe because of his hair, people can always get on tight. People can always get on good. And I think BJ Penn can get So even though I have Guida right now, knockout round 1, I'm only going to put it on like 20% of my cards. I think both guys, like that, it's either a flash knockout or a flash submission, one or the other.
I actually don't think that's that bad of an angle as well.
I think it's over in the first. That would be if I had to make one, like what one thing do you think is true about this fight that you could say? I think it's over in the first.
Interesting. I have a decision, Guida. So 9,500 for the huge favorite against BJ Penn, 6,700. Are you going to end up paying that for Clay Guida?
Only like 20% on both guys, I think. I might just have them both like, I don't want them either to ruin a card either.
Right.
You know what I'd love to see? Double. I'd like to see a submission finish so no one gets hurt, and then double gloves laid in the
double
octagon.
Retirement?
First time ever.
Wow. That would be super dope. I would absolutely love that. Interesting. Who's the older man in this competition? 37-year-olds for Guida against the 40-year-old BJ Penn. Man, BJ. Come on, BJ. I'm sorry. You just got to be in like submission-only tournaments, not punches to the head anymore, dude. It's not working out.
Yeah.
Not
Eddie
working
Bravo,
out.
Sug.
Exactly. All of those type of fights in there. At bantamweight, 135 pounds, we're going back to the ladies with a profile fight with Irene Aldana, the Mexican Hype Fest, against Betch Correa. You know how we feel about her. We got a few favorites, or the few anti-heroes over the show, and Betch just fits that mold perfectly. Pitbull in there has one of the I don't want to say funnest, but definitely some gifts out there that are just like, oh, you are a trolly little woman. Yeah, I'm sure you're a nice lady. But I'm just like, bitch, this bitch.
She's sexy lady and she shake your booty. And it seems like always a little off rhythm. Like it never seems like how you imagine, like when you shut your eyes and you picture a Brazilian lady dancing for you. It never fits that mold. So nothing on Bet. She just seems like she just doesn't get it or something. So
it's what she gets though is how to promote herself, because she got a title fight with her mouth. She has actually had she beat Jessica Eye in a split decision. The evil eye went down. Pitbull was able to get her out of there in a dirty split, but she went into a dirty split with Pennington. Ronda Rousey has that infamous finish over Bethe Correia, but we know what we get with this striker. She jabs in there, moves forward, but somewhat counter punches. It's fairly inactive, low output, and it's just interesting at times that she's even fighting people like Holly Holmes and waved on a punch or a kick from Holly Holmes and was like, I'm ready, dink! I'm ready, bink! Oh, I'm not ready. So Bethe Correia's lights can go out, and against Irene Aldana, the decision master. Irene Aldana has been in so many dirty splits that... Follow her Instagram. I love me some Irene Aldana. I've been betting it heavy on her for a while. But she does tend to get into these splits because she's a volume striker, has a good jab as well out of that Mexican boxing scene. She's with that. Alexis Grasso is kind of not as big of a hype train as Grasso, but lived a little more up to her name by winning a couple of these. She's on a 2-fight winning streak, but they were decisions, one being a dirty split, one to Bernardo, and one to Lucy Pudilova as a split. The other one
to,
two. Right, those are her winning, but she lost a decision to Leslie Smith and Caitlin Chukagian, which are high level.
Yeah.
I mean, those are in the top 10 if you really start to look at it, so... Irene Aldana's boxing is really where she likes to keep it. Takedown-wise, Bethe doesn't really throw takedowns in there, and Irene frames well. Off the clinch, I really like her knees, but she doesn't go there as much. She really just likes to stay on her back foot and circle around, I see this turning into a decision type of fight. I got the favorite in Aldana. The minus 300, I don't like it, but I feel it's just because... Bethe, especially off that KO, I think she's going to be especially not moving forward to get knocked out like that again. And in Brazil, it might be... I've seen crazier things. Bethe Correia gets in dirty splits with Raquel Pennington. Think of that. That's just because she stands around and throws some of these punches and kicks to the air. They won't even land, but because the Brazilian crowd will cheer against the Mexican fighter... I got a dirty split written in here. I got Aldana, but I feel bad juju around this. I feel like there's a stink in the air. I don't know. I feel like someone's getting a dirty split.
Bethe could pull this out. I think it's going to be a dirty split as well. And I like Irene Aldana. I think she's actually a truer 135er than Bethe. I think Bethe could move down to the 125 and give that division a play. Irene, I hope she's filling herself out a little bit. She's never done anything to super impress me. And honestly, beating Bethe Correia by decision isn't going to really impress me either. And maybe it should, because I think that's showing her cardio. It's showing her grindability. And Bethe has been in there against the queens of the 135. So she's nothing to sneeze at. She's a little weird and grady on the personality, but that adds to her in the same way as I enjoy Colby Covington. It's like her wrestling character. Give me Aldana decision. I think neither lady make a ton of points here. I think it's not. I think it's kind of another stay away.
I agree. Irene Aldana, being the big favorite at minus 300, is going to be 9,200 on DraftKings against Bethe Correia's 7,000 even. In a dirty ass split, the play is Bethe Correia. Even in a loss, the play is Bethe Correia.
Yeah, she doesn't have a ton of output, but I feel like she's a 40-pointer. So
average
it's like
49 points.
Yeah.
Exactly. Aldana's average is about 73 points. So, That's definitely a
It
run
shows
one.
you're right on
rough
the
one.
boxing if they're just going to stand there. And Betch is a person that if she's just going to stand there and let somebody beat off on her.
Just really go to town.
Yeah, and just really get her wet, you know.
Sock it to her.
Yeah.
Bloody her up.
decision. I don't even know where to go with that now.
So, Aldana, I'm not going to play pretty much anywhere because she needs to get a finish in my eyes in order to really pay that off. And against Betch Correia, I am going to end up...
I don't see an unfinished either.
I'm going to end up seeing like 20% Betch Correia as well. Low percentage play on Betch Correia there. Aldana,
Maybe you're
maybe
right.
one.
Maybe Betch Correia definitely is.
On DraftKings wise, not straight up bet.
It's
straight up bet.
It's a Pitbull or pass play.
Definitely. At 155 pounds, back at the lightweights, we have Thiago Moises coming in against Kurt Holobaugh. Moises coming in short notice and losing to Beneil Dariush when he debuted 5 months ago. The 11-3 fighter comes in with all sorts of jiu-jitsu credentials. He does have some wins out of the LFA. He actually had some really serviceable striking. He won his Contender Series fight via TKO, but he's one of these guys who also is so confident in his ground game that he lets loose in his hands, isn't worried about getting clipped, and once he gets to the ground, he feels really comfortable. So he's a dangerous young man at 24 years old and really taken well and has that killer instinct. Kurt Holobaugh, a lot can be said the same for him at 17-6. He gets after you in there. Tends to be more of the striker. If there has been, though, a weakness in Holobaugh's game, it has been that submission. Shane Burgos being one of his last loss via submission armbar 6 months ago. It was actually a fight where Holobaugh in about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, threw potentially 60 strikes. Kurt Holobaugh throws tons of output, always has. He's one of these guys who's a fan favorite because he moves forward, throwing punches, very Leslie Smithish in there, but he does tend to get into trouble by just kind of keeping that head on the center line and moving forward. But Holobaugh has a loss, uppercut to Barsolis, and it's again, Barsolis was able to not have to worry about the ground game, so I see a lot of the same things playing out, but I feel like Moises eventually, with his striking that I saw against Dariush in that decision, I think it actually proves a lot more that Moises is more at this level and is actually going to take a huge step up. I think that Holobaugh is going to go into Brazilian territory. Not only does he have the crowd against him, he actually has a young killer. I think we're going to see good things for Moises moving forward, like his striking, like his power. Defense could be tightened up a little bit, but as he moves up, he's going to end up rounding that up. I think Holobaugh gets his last loss in the UFC and gets asked to move on out of here because at 155, we got nothing but murderers, and I'm going to have a submission round number 3. I think that eventually Moises hurts Holobaugh. He could move it to round 2, but once he hurts Holobaugh a little bit, he gets around that back, and a Mata Leon sinks in. We got a rear naked choke. 2 or 3. I'm going with 3 right now. Who do you have in this fight and why?
I actually have Moises 2 KO round 3, and everything about my rules, and I really want to switch to Holobaugh. I'm 50-50 on him. I've been wrong once, I've been right once. I just have to say, too, I feel like the poor kid had one of the hardest runs, like were the first 2 fights I've ever seen ever in the UFC. Are you kidding? Like right to Murderer's Row. But that being said, you're right. The whole 155 is Murderer's Row. And if you can't keep up, it's better for your career to get out because you just don't need a big fat loss record in the UFC. You don't need it. So I see another loss coming here. I don't know if he's just not, if he's too passionate and hungry in there and just goes in and punches and throws away. I just think Moises has a little more discipline at this level, and that discipline will pay off. And his last loss to Beneil Dariush, that's exactly what everyone thought would happen. It's Beneil Dariush, and he's been in the UFC for a grip, and you made it all the way to decision with him. Not too shabby. Give me Moises. I'm a little tentative, though. I'm not super... I would like to see Holobaugh win emotionally. My heart would like to see Holobaugh win here.
I totally agree with that, but unfortunately, the Brazilians got to win a couple of them. This isn't UFC Ottawa. This isn't Canada. We got to have some Brazilians winning here. So Moises is going to be...
I got Brazilians winning all over the place.
Moises on DraftKings is going to be 8,500. The minus 145 favorite against the underdog plus 115, 7,700 for Hollabah. I actually do see a finish in here. I see this being a scrap. I actually can see myself putting both guys on here because if this goes into the later rounds, as I'm saying, Hollabah has high output. So even in... He's going to rack up points. He's not just going to be a lion duck in there. I don't hope it's not a first-round submission for him, but he has the potential of being able to really overscore that 7,700 for me. So I like both of these guys. I'm going to probably go around, I want to say 30% for Moises, 20% Hollabah, maybe 40% Moises, because I do like the finish 40, for him.
20 right now.
Right now.
Make sure you're following enough.
Definitely. So this is going to be the profile preliminary fight of the night on your ESPN, BT Sports 1, TSN, where I look at your local listings and your local times. Is this going to be regularly scheduled here in the East Coast, or are we going to end up having to do this in the
I don't even know anymore, and I have to also be honest. I hear people hating on ESPN Plus still and like ESPN, and people did not hate as much when they had to go from Fox to Fox FS1 or FS1 to FS2 or FS1 to pay-per-view. What are they not grasping about the ESPN or the Fight Pass to the FS1 to the pay-per-view, all different stages? You guys, it's not so difficult. I don't mind the ESPN Plus. I actually prefer it over the Fight Pass. I think they do a very clean job. I think it's high quality. I don't have nearly as many issues as I did it with Fight Pass. I've already complimented the workups, and it's way better than DAZN. So I do miss the amount of UFC fights right at my fingertips on Fight Pass, but if you have ESPN Plus and you've noticed, they're moving so many fights over every day. Every day you can find new and new fights being put over on ESPN Plus. That's not even commercial for them. I'm just saying. I feel like the people hating on it, like, well, I guess my parents aren't going to understand how to do it. Do they have Netflix on their phone? They understand how to do that and put that on their TV? They can understand ESPN Plus, everyone. Welcome to the new age. Sorry. That
new age is going to be ushered in with
the
Nogueira,
oldest guy in the room.
the oldest Brazilian on the card in Minotauro Nogueira, the former title challenger, has definitely been in it for a long, long time. The 23-8 fighters coming in against Ryan Spann, the 42-year-old, likes to use his boxing in there and jiu-jitsu to round out his game. He's coming off of a win to Sam Alvey at 205 pounds. He's lost a few bouts in there. The Sam Alvey came up at 205 pounds. He also has a win over Pat Cummings. Lost to Ryan Bader TKO. Lost to Shogun Hua decision. Lost to Anthony Johnson TKO. Ryan Spann being 15-5 can get you out of there striking as well as on the submissions. He has a good rear naked choke. He goes for Kimuras even at times. He's a 27-year-old coming out of Texas, Fortis MMA. We have quite a few guys coming out of Fortis. We like a lot of people coming out of Fortis. This is one of those guys. But with Spann, we have seen his debut go to a decision with Luis Frankenstein de Silva Henrique. You guys know how we feel here at LatB about this mofo. The fact that it was a decision really, really has me tentative on Spann. He's a big hype train in my eyes because a lot of people can get De Silva out of there. I mean, De Silva's biggest attribute is that he's a punching bag. So Spann in there at times was in real trouble on the ground, and De Silva doesn't have good takedowns. De Silva just has so many flaws. So Ryan Spann, if he doesn't get you out of there early, he really tends to struggle. And against veteran-type fighters, that's what they do. That's what Minotauro Nogueira does. He gets later on into it, but he also has the level of boxing to be able to hurt you early on. A lot of people see those Spann being fast enough in this first round to be able to throw one of those head kicks up to the body. Spann actually has a great left low kick. I believe he does have some glory kickboxing thrown in there as well, but Spann, as far as takedowns, there's no reason he should want to go to the ground. He really doesn't shoot too many takedowns. But against Nogueira, that's where he's going to have his biggest advantage. I actually see Nogueira trying to push this up against the fence and turning this into a dirty boxing match. So this one is, it's pretty close. I do not like what I saw from Spann. Even on the Contender Series fight, it was a quick finish. So he's one of these guys who gets you out of there quick. He looks good, but once we see him in that middle of second round, third round, he's a completely different fighter, and he's just kind of fighting off the guys so he doesn't lose. So I'm tentative. Give me the slight favorite in a -145. Feel like the line's right here. I'm not going to go heavy on this, but give me Spann in a decision right now. I could see a finish. I got to see weigh-ins. I got to see what Nogueira looks like. He just beat Sam Alvey, but Sam Alvey may not be able to get through Spann either right now. I'm tentative on this fight. Give me Spann decision. Have to wait for that final card. Who do you have in this fight?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I have Nogueira KO round 3. I think eventually the cardio and the experience just is going to catch up. Luis Henrique is barely a UFC caliber fight, especially at the 205, and I want to be able to fade Nogueira, but what we're noticing is they're letting these Brazilian guys fight in Brazil specific. We're not seeing them fight in the States anymore.
No USADA?
No USADA. They have BUSADA. That's Brazilian USADA. And it ain't, they're like, did you drink your own juice?
Yes, they show up with the drugs.
Yeah, they're like, here you go.
Here's your vitamins. Here's your PEDs.
Here's your horse meat.
Exactly.
Get on now. I just think Nogueira is a weirdly well-rounded guy, but he would have to be at his age. So, and he's not chinny. No offense to Ryan Spann, but he ain't Anthony Johnson.
Exactly. And the fact he couldn't knock out Luis Henrique, where he was likely to not everyone, we said it, he's going to knock out Luis Henrique. All of a sudden, you see that pumpkin head flying around, and he's still in it, and all of a sudden, Spann's on his back just laying there. So, Nogueira can do that.
Yeah,
I got
Nogueira TKO round 3. I could even see it submission. I just think eventually it's going to be that next level game in there, and maybe then we'll see Nogueira lay down the gloves. I hope it's a whole Brazilian night of retirement. I know we're not going to get this. This is what I ask for every time in Brazil, but it feels weird.
Yeah,
Nogueira.
This is a tough one.
Stick with what I know.
Ryan Spann on DraftKings is going to be 8,800 against Nogueira's 7,400. I mean, Spann has to get a finish in there. He can't go to decision with Nogueira at all. He has to finish in there. So I'm going to probably have 10% exposure on that. And I'm going to say probably 30% exposure on Nogueira. Because if he wins or even gets past that second round, he's worth every cent. Because he does have a good output in there with good shots and, again, really well-rounded. So if Luis Henrique can stay alive in there, I think Nogueira can as well. Give me a decision in that one. If you haven't...
So you're a Nogueira too?
No.
Oh,
Spann.
Spann, okay.
But a lot of people have it finished for Spann, and I'm like, I don't necessarily see that. Because, again, you gotta get Luis Henrique out of there first, sucker. So, if you're not liking and subscribing, there's going to be a couple free bets out your way. Follow at Zoltanite, at WeakNeckBaby, at Lesbo and the Bean, on our Twitter and Instagram.
I know, and I'm going to be in the process. I don't even have to tell you that right now. Yeah, and you can follow our Instagram at LatB_MMA. And you can also, we already told you, we tried to be the best podcast in the world and remind you that Sunday was Mother's Day.
True.
Tried to tell you to go to Lather & Company and put in the code LatB15 and get your 15% off, and it would have been there on time. You still have time to get a gift there before you look like a douche if you go there. But it might not be, depending on where you live, it might not be on time anymore. So this is just a friendly reminder, not just a commercial. Get your mom a card or some shit.
You can ask for forgiveness and say, Mom, look at the post date. I got it before time. It's just this mail system. Here you go. And just have some minuscule flowers. But she'll love the secondary gifts because you're already at that point going to end up having to do flowers. So.
And you didn't get any of the BS if you ordered latherandcompany.com. You got her something different and specific. And you might even be able to get a scent that you're like, oh my gosh, Mom, this always reminds me of you. And she'll be like, oh, it's my favorite. Just because you got it for me. It'll be the one soap she never unwraps. She'll be like, Mom, use the soap. Mom, use the soap. And then you'll know she loves it so much that you'll have to get her another soap and use the code LAPI15 and get 15% off and free shipping. in the continental United States. And there's tons of stuff on there, you guys. So support our sponsors, because our sponsors support us and we support you with these bomb-ass free bets on UFC.
Free picks.
What is it? UFC
237 pay-per-view. It's how we're gonna end up starting off the pay-per-view event. You're gonna end up making money this night. There's no way if ands or buts around it. There is, again, some of the funnest fights we're gonna see on the card scheduled in this pay-per-view. No matter how you get it, you better be watching, because it's nothing but live action. Live action.
I'm excited for this fight coming up.
This is such a good fight.
You know, the undercard, not that great overall.
What? You're telling me an undercard with Priscilla Cachoeira and Betch Correia isn't great?
On the same card? Not until they fight each other. I don't even think they can. They're in a different weight class, aren't they?
I think they could. One might have to move up. But it's doable.
That's my dream
or
fight.
Moon down.
That's my dream fight. Be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
I just wasted it. That's the one time the MMA gods just listened to me, and they were like coming here to hear me say Tony Khabib, and I just wasted it on
Lofty dream goals is all I'm saying.
Like Will Smith just pops in, blue Will Smith, and he's like, "Oh, you ain't never met him, never met her, never met her." Are they singing the same songs on that Aladdin?
I'm not sure, because I'm not gonna watch it. I'll watch Dumbo, but that one that looks bad. I saw a preview and was like, it doesn't look that good to me.
I won't watch Dumbo.
Now that it's
I need
CGI.
racist crows. In my Dumbo, I need racist crows. I don't need a remake in reality. But in reality, I am too big of a softie when it comes to animal shit. That I do not... Like, the cartoon was hard enough on me. I will not be able to make it through a live-action version of Dumbo. I'll just be sobbing. Crying about my cat that I had 7 years ago or something.
That elephant gets drunk. Super drunk in that movie. Super, super drunk. All that drunk juice. All that grown up juice.
In the cartoon.
Remember
how drunk he got
that's
in the
what I'm saying.
too?
He gets super drunk. I don't know. I haven't seen the live movie.
And hanging out with creepy old clowns.
I feel like that's where I got with some of my clown anxiety. Think of that, Dumbo. And
they painted him like a clown. They got him so drunk, he looks at himself and he's all clowned up. He's all clowned up. He's all clowning.
If there was a guy that I would ever see on the back of an elephant, it would be Francisco Trinaldo at 155 pounds.
I do declare, if I see an elephant fly.
If I see somebody riding an elephant, again, Trinaldo would be one of those, with all love, chimps on the back of him, because he's built like a chimp in all the right ways. He just has that ape in all the good ways figure. Everybody says he's strong as a freaking ox. Trains with who is it? That Tata fight team over with Alex Oliveira. He's just rough and grimy, coming out of that jungle scene, but been fighting in the UFC for quite a while now.
Ape
Fight Club. No, Jungle Fight Club fight scene. That's what it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I have to draw the line.
No.
This seems racist.
No.
I'm just kidding. I let the kid on the pointing to his pee-pee go. But now... Just kidding.
The kid had to pee. But it was one of those. I think
I've seen that too. And anyone that looks into those movie mistakes, it's on there.
It's on there, yeah.
Woman, his socks are on, his shoes are on, and then they're off, and then they put that one right after it. I've seen it too, along with that 3 Men and a Baby. It's all together.
Yeah, it's all one of those like 5 things you didn't see, and now it's gonna be Game of Thrones thrown in there as well. But Trinaldo would have been one of those warrior barbarians that has great Muay Thai. Good takedown defense to a certain point. One of the things we've seen heavily happen with Trinaldo is his gas tank starts to fade, especially later on at 40 years old. He's one of these guys that still looks good, might have some of that Brazilian water running through his veins. Last beating Evan Dunham in a TKO 7 months ago. But prior to that, he lost to James Vick in a decision. Prior to that, beating Jim Miller. Also losing to Kevin Lee in a submission, but he had Kevin Lee all sorts of dancing on ice skates in there with a head kick. I mean, Trinaldo's got power at all sorts of times in there. But against a constant underdog in Diego Ferreira coming out of that Fortis fight team.
Is that the evil twin trying to yell through?
He's trying to tell me something?
Yeah.
Good. This is one of those lined ones that...
No one ever gets to hear their own ringtone.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, no one ever gets to hear what rings on the other end when they call you.
Truth.
You know, you never get to hear that, so I don't know. If you heard the tiny Ric Flair in the background.
Ooh, you know how we do around here. But this...
And you should lose $100 just for having your phone on.
That is faux pas. Unprofessional. Trying to move along through it. Diego Ferreira.
I always like to gum it up.
Diego Ferreira, though, great striking. We had him here as an underdog in his last fight against Habilov. He was a big underdog. He went all the way to Russia. How long ago was that? Like 4 months ago? 2 months ago. But coming off of a 4-fight winning streak, only losing in there to Dustin Poirier TKO, and that was a fun one. Diego Ferreira comes in with great striking, good jab, good body shots. All right kicks. He goes to that low calf kick every once in a while as well, but has good takedown defense. And on the ground, Diego Ferreira is nasty. There's a lot of guys that have gone to the ground with Diego Ferreira and never shot on him again and been like, oh, never mind.
Came back.
Yeah.
Much like Daenerys' second dragon.
Just like if they would go in the jungle with Francisco Trinaldo, they would not come back. I'm taking it back.
Like
man.
the Congo.
But Trinaldo in there, I mean, striking-wise, both of these guys, it's just going to be a fun striking clinic on the ground. Trinaldo can hold his own, but I do give an edge to Ferreira on the ground in this output. We've seen great output from Ferreira as well. We've seen his gas tank really come into its own, especially as of late with him and Habilov. Habilov really started to wear it in there late. So I think a lot of the same is going to happen here against Trinaldo. I do think Ferreira is going to get a little wobbled in here. I feel like he's going to really respect the power after a few couple hits. This isn't a fight that Ferreira can just get up in Trinaldo's face because Trinaldo throws that overhand right with conviction from the first to the third. Even though he tends to slow down a lot, he's super dangerous in that first round. I got Diego Ferreira submission round number 3.
Wow.
But this is a really, really close one. He's a slight favorite, minus 165. Give me Ferreira in this. Who do you have and why?
I too have Diego Ferreira, and this has got to be the first fight he's the favorite in. It's got to be the first one in the history of his career. And I am kind of a little pissed, everyone. I feel like I wanted him to be an underdog in this fight. He's my consummate underdog. We usually do very well together, and it is a bummer to me because he's not a guy with a ton of output. He's just a grimy grinder that seems to be... He covers his bases everywhere. And this is my dirty ass banana split. This is my, and instead of a banana, it has a doo-doo.
Doo-doo, why doo-doo?
This is my doo-doo split. Dirty ass, because that would be a dirty ass split. It would be a banana split with a doo-doo. That's so nasty.
Nasty.
Then I got Diego Ferreira in this fight. Maybe 60, 70 points. And Trinaldo, he's always dangerous. And I keep waiting for him to fade out because he always surprises me against these people. Well, no, I guess he's...
Loses to the guys he should.
Yeah, but he's beating people that always surprise me. He does have that power.
Yeah.
I just think Diego Ferreira has a very good chin. So, yeah, Ferreira decision. How much is he on DraftKings?
9,000 for Ferreira against 7,200 for Trinaldo. Even if it gets into that third round with a type of output and maybe potentially the knockdown that Trinaldo can get in there, I could see a finish for Ferreira. I'm going to probably do around 30% Trinaldo, 30% Ferreira, because, maybe 20% Trinaldo. If he gets into that third round, goes to that dirty split, he's worth the 7-2. I do think he can get in that 60, maybe 40 points-ish. There's going to be some funky DraftKings lines in here. I feel like we've been saying that a lot about it.
It's
a lot of
smart
these
fight,
cards.
though, to put up if you're going to have a legend
pay-per-view
like
opener.
Trinaldo, but like a legend like Trinaldo lose, you got to have a Brazilian beat him. Because the energy in there, they're so smart. All their monsters that have potentials of losing tonight are going up against a Brazilian.
True.
Until we get to the main event. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But Diego Ferreira, sneaky. I don't know. I'm not really feeling great about Trinaldo here. I think he loses his cardio too. I won't have Trinaldo anywhere, but I will. I like the 30% on Ferreira. It's such a
Interesting.
bummer. I don't think anyone's going to put Ferrero on their card. I think he's a good one of those weird people maybe that might be on a winner.
I think
even though he's not going to monster
I
points.
think there's people on DraftKings that for 9,000, regardless of who it is, they're like 9,000. He's got to get a finish in here. But that's why you listen to us, because we break it down. We're telling you, ooh, this is more than likely how this fight's going to play out. And yes, there could be a finish in any single fight, but there's also really closely contested matchups throughout the entire night. Another one is going to be at 170 pounds with Thiago Santos against debuting Leonardo Stripoli. I think that was a pretty good one. Ended up catching that on a couple of them. It's really Italian based. He's an Argentinian fighter. Luriano Stripoli.
Good one.
So 8
Pepe.
and 1.
Is it Pepe? Pepe.
Pepe. Everybody loves a Pepe.
He's Argentinian.
All those sound very Italian to me, though. And even the way that you throw it. Strapoli. I heard him say it on an interview recently. So
It sounds like Stromboli.
that's what you want to say. That's the way I read
When the
it.
moon hits your eye like a big piece of pie, it's Stromboli.
Strapoli. He's coming off of a win over Hector Aldana, not debuting. He won a decision 5 months ago against Aldana, but Aldana being low level in there. He was an underdog, but
Can I tell you who should be right here on this card?
who?
Never mind.
Oh.
It's good. We can move on. Sorry.
So, he did beat Aldana, but that's a very low caliber fighter. He did come off of that Latin America stuff, but Strapoli comes in with a well-rounded game, gets in your face, not tons, somewhat of power. Striking-wise is growing. He is a young man at 26 years old. Against Thiago Alves, Pitbull as well in there. He's 23 and 13, fighting the highest caliber for many years. Debuted when he was, 20, 21 years old, somewhere in that range. But was fighting GSP for the belt. Never got the belt, but had many contested bouts for the belt. Just always uses Muay Thai to keep fights striking. He's coming off of a win in his last fight. It was a dirty split decision against Max Griffin. I thought Max Griffin won. You thought Max Griffin won. Everybody thought Max Griffin won. But we were in Brazil. And that plays a role again here in Brazil against the Argentinian. Who do you think they're going to cheer for? It's not going to be the Argentinian fighter. But Alves lost to Glinenchko. He also lost to Melender in a TKO. Lost to Jim Miller decision. And only has a win in there as well over Patrick Cote, who retired. Alves is on the end of his career. He's definitely, the fact that he went to decision with Max Griffin is actually pretty telling, but he was pretty beat up in there.
His last good win was Jordan Mean at UFC 183.
And that was a body shot, and that was a fight he was losing until that body shot ended up coming through. But Alves is just slowed down. He's going to keep using his Muay Thai, good takedown defense. This shouldn't go on the ground. And striking-wise, Thiago Alves is a better striker slightly. He has better Muay Thai. Hector Aldana is still not the level of Thiago Alves, and Max Griffin would eat Strapoli alive in there. So I just see the veteranship, the power, the young man, him wanting to fight. He's definitely, his trajectory is going up in the UFC, even on a loss. I could see it going up, but I do see this turning into a decision type of fight. I think Alves just keeps it on the outside, uses his leg kicks well in here. He's really starting to go to that, use that jab. If we can get a couple takedowns out of Alves, when he used to shoot back in the day, he has a great takedown, and he's up in that 80% takedown defense range. So Strapoli isn't getting into this to the ground. Alves can dictate where this fight takes place. So for that, I'm going to give him a slight edge as well. Give me the near even money, minus 115 against minus 115. Thiago Alves. Looks like a dirty split coming up. I think the crowd gets involved. For 8,200, I'm going to probably be super limited as far as exposure on DraftKings on this. I just don't see it being a high score. I see a decision out of this one. Who do you have and why?
I agree. I have Alves' decision, and it's really just the stick with what I know, even though I don't really love his chin right now in the game. Strapoli isn't one of those guys with super big power. I didn't love what I saw again in his Aldana fight. I know he had a bunch of knockouts before that, but they were against guys with a 1-1 record or a 1-0 record. So take it for what it is. Also, seen Thiago Alves fight in Brazil. We were just talking about letting them juice, and his has been one of the careers that we've seen take a plummet since USADA has been introduced. And all the guys from Brazil that we saw their careers take a plummet, now we're watching them only fight in Brazil. So I think that's even another reason. I know we say a lot, that's saying a lot, like Brazilian fighters are dirty, but whatever. I think there's other fighters. I'm not saying American fighters are clean.
100%. 100%.
You know.
First lifetime, maybe not the first lifetime ban, but a lifetime ban we just heard about was for a Russian fighter. Just throwing that out there. So, and everybody, it's equal opportunity out there as far as
It's
PEDs
equal.
and
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Isn't that the rules of UFC?
True. Hey, you know how we like to play here. I myself like to say, let my bet cash first and then suspend them.
I know, it's almost like you're cheating a little bit by listening to this good advice. That was my favorite when somebody was talking about, I forget, maybe it was Joe Rogan or Brendan Schaub's argument for EPO is like, well, you could go train in the mountains of Denver and then all your blood's going to change and everything's going to happen because you're training at elevation. You're allowed to do that.
True. A lot of people say that. A lot
I know,
of
but
people
I just thought, like, well, that would be like, I'm going to use steroids. You're allowed to just sit there and lift weights.
Sure.
Like, it's just like a really slicing of a hair argument.
But hey, you ain't trying.
Yeah, back to it.
You got to do
Thiago
whatever you
Alves,
can.
Decision, I think the veteranship pays off. He's a guy that he looks 57 in there. He's like Michael Douglas inside the octagon at this point. He's like... but I just haven't seen enough from Laureano to feel like he's hungry enough to come up and beat a guy that's Thiago Alves in Brazil. And honestly, at the end of this, we might be like, I think he just won that fight, but it won't matter. We're in Brazil. Thiago Alves decision. How much? Let me know how much.
8,200 for Alves against 8,000 for Strapoli.
Weird that they're both over 8. Usually we see the 8 where the gap takes place. It's like, hey, DraftKings, you're being fishy this time. You're being fishy. Who's running that? A Brazilian over there? No, I'm just kidding. Don't get mad at me, Brazilians. Ooh. I could see myself putting each guy on one card.
But low exposure to the fight.
So low.
Yep. Totally agree. Minimal finishes in this throughout the night, huh? A lot of decisions either way.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a not great card, and even it's...
Ooh.
The two last fights of the card are
3.
slayers. What are the 3?
The co-main event, Cannonier Silva.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yep.
Or I should say the third fight of the card in the main event, slayers. I really love them. I think actually a Jose Aldo versus Alexander Volkanovski should have been the co-main. That would have been big enough for me. Give me a Peppered and a Ponzinibbio, I would have shut the fuck up. But otherwise, I think this card's a little lackluster, and...
It's top heavy.
I entered a contest to try to win tickets to Fight Week.
Ooh. UFC, you listening?
Yeah, just saying.
Just saying. Really nice pick that name.
If the UFC, or would just send like, hey, Lesbo and the Bean, or Cheney and E. We would love to see you guys at UFC Fight Week. And if they called us Lesbo and the Bean, I'd be like, more money. Let me sue in the UFC. Be like, what are we calling a Lesbo? Just kidding. Anyways,
LatB.
we can break it down.
In the house, you just mentioned both of these fighters at 145 pounds. Should be the co-main event. It's the third one before it's all over. And profile fight. This is a fight of the year contender in here. We have Jose Aldo coming in against Alexander Volkanovski. Again, you got to think the bride who postponed her wedding for Volkanovski to be able to have this fight. So they're going to get married next month once he flies back into town. But the city kickboxing Israel Adesanya longtime friend, has many stories with Adesanya talking about, hey, one day in the UFC, we're going to be running this shit. And now he's in here being a slight underdog. The 19-1 fighter is just former rugby player. He's coming in, beating Darren Elkins, Chad Mendes TKO, has a couple other profile wins in there, also beating the people like Jeremy Kennedy, and is just all together. Shane Young in there. Shown a well-rounded game, good kickboxing, but if you look back at that Chad Mendes fight, that was a gunfight. that was both these guys throwing heat at each other. It was exciting to all hell. But Volkanovski has a iron chin. Chad Mendes hit him with some of his hardest shots. He was wobbled in there and recovered incredibly well from that. It was really a really fun fight to watch. But if you look at that and think that Volkanovski ran away with that fight, you're kidding yourself, because Chad Mendes landed his hardest shots. It was just that what we're seeing with Chad Mendes post USADA and all that, his retirement fight, he just didn't have a gas tank. Once it was its second round, Volkanovski has shown that he can go a hard 3 rounds and keep a high pace, and that's why a lot of people like him as well. So Volkanovski throws awesome body headshots. He really mixes it up well. That City Kickboxing New Zealand team, just all those guys coming out of there have really great fundamentals. And against a striker like Jose Aldo, you're going to need that, because he's been a long-time reigning champion. He's a legend in his own right. I mean, he's beating guys that I've been trying to write off Aldo for a little while because of those losses to Max Holloway. But Max is the only guy that's really done that to him. He's off a 2-fight winning streak, beating Jeremy Stevens with that nasty body shot. Then last Moicano with that left hook body. I mean, if you want to talk about body shots, Jose Aldo has one of the best Duchis in the game. Left body shot to the right kick. He loves to throw it out there. If we got vintage Aldo in here with a heavy leg-centric kicking style, Volkanovski's in some goddamn trouble, because I do see an opening there potentially for you to slow down Volkanovski and then start to use your boxing later on in the rounds. But this is a dogfight everywhere. Absolute dogfight. On the ground, we've seen Volkanovski do well. Jose Aldo, though, has some of the best takedown defense against Frankie Edgar. Some of the best in the game, so I don't think the takedown plays a role into this. I think Jose Aldo gets to choose where this fight goes. And striking-wise, I have a slight advantage. The only disadvantage I really give Aldo here potentially is in the gas tank, because he doesn't want to go 5. He specifically has in his contract 3-round fighter, and the way he takes damage as well. Like, he doesn't get as beat up as he used to and wear it well. I don't want to say he quits in there, but he definitely doesn't. He cuts a lot easier and just looks like it's a harder fight as it is. He is going to be in Brazil, though, so if this goes to decision, the crowd is going to play it heavier for him. Volkanovski needs to get a finish or just a complete 10-8 round in order to decidedly win this. And for that, I got Aldo in a dirty split, but that's because Volkanovski is going to make this a dog fight. If this was in New Zealand, it would be Volkanovski's fight. If this was in America, you're going to flip a coin. I got Aldo in this one. Profile fight. I can't wait for this one. I'm so excited. This is stylistically just fire, fire, fire. Jose Aldo can bang. So can Volkanovski. We're going to see legendary type of a profile fight here. Who do you have and why?
This is a killer match. It's maybe one of the best fight stylistically as we've seen all year.
All the year.
Totally. Two of the best guys that we've seen go against each other. But I think Volkanovski's off he got a lot of win off that Chad Mendes win. And you guys, Chad Mendes came back from a long-ass suspension of 2 years. He won a fight, and then he immediately lost and retired. Almost like he already had decided to retire beforehand and didn't plan on winning the fight before that. And that mentality, to me, I'm glad Volkanovski won, and you did win against a firefight with Chad Mendes, who's one of the greats of all time. But that Chad Mendes still's no Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo losing to Max like that, but it wasn't just the losing to Max like that. It was the getting clipped by Conor like that. And everybody just all of a sudden went from like the king of Brazil to the king of nothing. Aldo hasn't done nothing. He's Jose who. And I think he's really proven himself. I think coming back from the 2 losses to Max, the second one was super brutal compared to the first one. Both pretty bad. And then handling a guy like Jeremy Stevens, where everyone was like, feeling Jeremy. Like, Jeremy was making this run right there. Power hitter, all that. And he handled Jeremy Stevens and made him look like they shouldn't even be in the same octagon. And then a guy like Moicano, who for all intents and purposes has almost an equal amount of heat as Brian Ortega, where people were like, oh,
me
shit.
included.
Yeah, like Brian Moicano is somebody who can't be futzed with. I don't know if Volkanovski beats that Brian Moicano. what is his
Hento.
Renato Moicano. I don't know if he beats Moicano, so I don't know if he beats Ortega. Jose Aldo is a guy that sits alone up there, and frankly, Max Holloway just has his number. But I still think Jose is one of the greats. And seeing him at 3 rounds and him putting his foot down, I've been doing it for a decade. I've been fighting 5-round fights. Literally a decade. No other fighter in the UFC can say that, of how steadily I just 5 round. So now him going in with the freedom of a 3-round, I think you get a more banger Jose Aldo if that's possible.
Because he can let loose.
He can let loose, and maybe we do see more leg kicks, which is going to make a guy like Volkanovski really tentative when he goes in for a takedown. Jose Aldo also has nasty knees with a guy that's going to try to be takedown heavy with him. I just think we've seen Jose Aldo. Volkanovski is an Edgar in ways. I think we've seen Aldo fight this fight before, and it's nothing against Volkanovski, but it is a huge step up. He has some righteous wins in there, but it's by name alone. It's not the Chad Mendes of yesteryear. It's, Chad Mendes that was about to retire, and I still think that's great. I think the Darren Elkins wins is great, but I don't even know who Jeremy Kennedy is. I'm like, is that retired Marine? And you're like, no.
Never one.
Is that the comedian? Is that the Jamie Kennedy Experience on Fox? No, I don't know. So Jose Aldo, I think it's going to be ugly. No, I think everybody expects us to be great. I think everyone expects us. I can see Volkanovski getting around or not. Aldo decision. I think Volkanovski's a tough enough guy, though, to take it. I don't think he's going to get finished. I think he can take some punches because, like you were saying, the Chad Mendes fight was a banger, and Chad Mendes is a guy known for his power. So I just think King of Brazil. I'm going to be standing up. King of Brazil.
So for 8,400 against Volkanovski's 7,800. Jose Aldo being the slight favorite, minus 130 against plus 110 for the underdog in Volkanovski. A lot of people seeing it the same way we are. A lot of people seeing it, I guess, this decision type of battle. It is going to be a close one. Little more tricks of the trade. That veteranship finally not being as underestimated as I guess we have been. Again, I picked Jeremy Stevens and Moicano against Aldo. So now I'm finally picking Aldo. Am I going to screw myself here? Am I going to get it wrong?
And I also think just having his confidence back.
Yep.
I think after it took a lot from him, the Conor McGregor thing, and then to go in and lose to Max twice, he just felt like he was over. I am 6-2 with my Jose Aldo. I actually had Frankie Edgar to beat him and Chad Mendes to beat him, surprisingly enough. Other than that, I got Stim all right. So I'm going to go with Jose Aldo again.
How much do you think you're going to play him on for 8,400 on your DraftKings?
One of my favorite things that you've said so far of 2019 that I think stays in our repertoire of words is he's going to be my linchpin.
Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think he's my linchpin.
Wow. You're going to... Then 8,400, I mean, he goes 3 rounds. He's worth that. He doesn't have to get 9,000. He's going to get in that 70, 80 point range, if not higher, depending on his showing out. I think you can split these guys up. I'm going to probably end up going around 60% Aldo, 40% Volkanovski. I think you can... Either guy. Because either guy can finish here, and both guys have high output. So... Even the loser may be in that 40, 50 point range unless it's a quick blowout. And if so, that's going to be over 100 points easy for a 8,400 guy.
Can we agree, though, winner of this fight gets Max next?
Yeah, 100%.
Or winner of this fight gets Brian Ortega.
I was about to say Ortega.
Or winner gets Max, loser gets Ortega.
I like that. I totally like that.
I like what's happening in the 145. It's
totally
really interesting. And I also am glad with the 2 divisions that we just talked about, the 45 and 55 and all the movement and all the monsters and everything. No need to talk about fucking Conor McGregor.
Totally agreed with that one. And the co-main event goes with another legend. We got another... I was wrong with Minotauro Nogueira being the oldest fighter on the card. Officially,
holy shit.
The co-main event of the night has the oldest
BJ
fighter.
Penn was.
Yeah, 40 years old. Trinaldo, 40 years old. We have multiple 40-year-olds in here. And we have a co-main event with Jared Cannonier against coming longtime veteran, former champion, Anderson the Spider Silva with a 34-9 record. He is 44 years old against the 35-year-old Jared Cannonier. Cannonier's 11-4, coming all the way from heavyweight, getting his last win against David Branch 6 months ago via TKO, which isn't that big of a win the more you look at it. The more we've been seeing what David Branch has been doing, he's a guy who's just been kind of fighting on his name, and because he gets a big paycheck for his status prior to coming in. Cannonier, though, I don't want to take that much away from him. He's been a boxer. He used to work in Alaska. I think he was a TSA agent, something like that, but finally moved down to the States, and I believe he has been training, I don't want to say Fortis, but somewhere in that region, like that southwest region of the United States, maybe California. I know he's finally officially moved his family down and is doing it in there. Cannonier, though, comes in with good boxing, not too many takedowns, an okay serviceable gas tank, and his body is really shredded out. Haven't talked about it much, but he's strong in the nipple game. Jared Cannonier's got some of those good ones. But
you're having a day today.
Jared Cannonier always throws
He's
it
got
out
one of those real good ones. You should have said it nasty. You should have whispered it. He's got some good ones.
But they've really actually not seemed as intense. When he was heavyweight, he was stronger in hit. Now that he's a $185, he's shredded.
He did look like you could drop off the baby at him when he was heavyweight.
Yeah, right. I remember just
like, will you just breastfeed my baby until I get back from the grocery?
So, Cannonier's boxing is really what he gets done in there with a good gas tank. Against Anderson the Spider Silva, this is a guy who...
LatB, always dicks.
100%. Anderson Silva last lost to a Israel Adesanya in a decision over in New Zealand. Beat Derek Brunson in a controversial fight where a lot of people thought Brunson won that fight. Lost to Cormier on a day's notice, literally like 2 days' notice. Lost to Bisping in a controversial fight where Bisping was literally knocked out at one point in the fight. So Anderson Silva is crafty in there. He will cheat his ass off. He's been caught for steroids. He's broken his leg. He'll grab the fence. He'll poke in the eye. There's multiple times that we've seen him grab the fence and throw a knee. And because it's Anderson Silva, he gets away with it. A point never gets taken. And it's normal. It's normal.
It's normal. I did not see.
Oh, I didn't kick you in the balls. I didn't kick you in the balls. It's normal. The bell, I know bell.
I did not see finger in your eye. Now you do not see.
Oh, exactly. So Anderson Silva tries to win in there. At 44 years old, he's getting a big paycheck, but as we're saying throughout the theme of the night, this is one of these guys that...
He's Team Norgiro, too?
Yeah.
That you know that they do have somebody... BUSADA does show up at their door and bring them, like...
Oh, your leg hurts? Here you go. I got some for your leg. I got a little bit of this for your leg. So, Anderson Silva, though, a constant professional, he's always going to be throwing that kick up the middle... Clean boxing, great clinch, good knees to the body, and a serviceable gas tank. He's never really been outclassed in there other than the Weidman break, the both Weidman knockouts. Other than that, Anderson Silva goes to decision with everybody. Everybody. He is a professional. He just doesn't have necessarily the knockout power in there anymore. But against Cannonier, doesn't have to worry about those takedowns. Doesn't worry about getting really pushed hard. Cannonier has a serviceable gas tank, but really not the highest output in there. And he does have power, but it hasn't really shown up as of late in his fights. And Anderson Silva still has a pretty good gas tank. Where Anderson Silva's his own worst enemy is that if he's in Brazil and the crowd gets going and he puts his hands down and starts doing that head movement shit that he did against Weidman, Cannonier, like anybody else, can land that punch on him.
If he starts big brother, because you talked about little brother with Elias Theodore, he's big brother where he's like, hit me, go ahead, hit me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Bip!
And night. That can happen here, but if it doesn't, and this does go to decision, the crowd's going to play a big role because the Spider is a living legend in Brazil. Cannonier has something to prove. I think he's going to give a great showing of himself. I don't see a finish in this fight, or if there's a finish, I see it for Cannonier, but I want to say 7 out of 10 times I see this going to decision Silva. 3 out of those 10 times I see Cannonier getting a finish, more than likely knockout, but Silva's been in there against hard hitters. Give me Anderson Silva in a decision, probably a 30-27, if not 29-28. Anderson Silva. I got the underdog. Who do you have in this fight and why?
Cannonier has the power, but Anderson Silva still has to have the speed. In my opinion, he's just the faster fighter everywhere. Cannonier coming down from 205 to 185. He does look like the best version of himself that we've ever seen. But he's just not going in there against guys of Anderson Silva's caliber. I'd like to see, I almost think even the last fight with Israel Adesanya, Israel is probably 3 times as fast as Jared Cannonier. And so doing that whole fight and the way they peppered each other with shots, not that they both didn't take damage at all, but in the grand scheme, that was like the perfect sparring warm-up for taking this fight on short notice, 2 months, 3 weeks. I usually don't like to see that, but then for a guy like Anderson Silva, he was just in a 5-round fight with Israel Adesanya, going 3 rounds with Jared Cannonier. I do feel like this is a winnable fight for him. I almost feel like it'll just be a continuation of what we just saw, almost exactly in there with Adesanya, except Jared Cannonier is just not as fast. He's not as fluid. He's not
crafty.
like a mirror image of himself, like Silva's fighting another guy that's like him. Yeah, Jared Cannonier does have that one-punch knockout power, but everybody's knocking out David Branch these days. That's what that's what you do. You go into the 20. What was that? Was that at 205? No, 185. Go into 185. You used to knock out Luke Rockhold, but he's not there anymore. He's at 205. So now you knock out David Branch. Anderson Silva decision. Gosh, I was planning on going into this, like, going heavy on the bets. I almost am going to shy away from it after my shit week last week. I'm not feeling really great about a lot of these fights. Silva decision.
It's a lot of
decisions. I think it's going to be hard pressed to pull out those 100-pointers.
I agree. I totally
And you're
agree.
going to have somebody that gets 120 points that has to be on the winning card.
Totally.
Like, where it's going to, the combination of it. I mean, we even only have one 5-round fight, which for a pay-per-view, we've been spoiled lately, where we usually get a co-main and main that are both 5-rounders or 2 championships.
Great point. I'm surprised they didn't put an interim belt on this one at 185 pounds. Just like, hey, Anderson Silva, there you go, interim belt. Go for it.
Interim?
Exactly. But on DraftKings, the slight favorite is going to be Jared Cannonier at minus 130 again at DraftKings 8,700 against Anderson Silva 7,500 plus 110. Anderson Silva, the underdog.
I feel like I got poor records with both these guys.
I don't do well with these guys either, but Anderson Silva, I think the crowd's going to play a role here. I can't put Cannonier anywhere because he has to finish on maybe on like 10% I'm going to put Cannonier and more like 20 or 30% Silva. But even then, this is a low output fight, so maybe I'm going to shy away from this fight as well. I just see a decision here. It is 3 rounds. So what are you going to do DraftKings-wise is on here? 8,700 Cannonier
Oh
again.
my gosh, I'm going to have such few cards. And I know I said this last time that I'm going to put out my cards. And I feel like because I didn't, I forgot about it. I feel like it cost, like my night just went to shit. So maybe this time if I say it, my cards are going to be all over the place.
Everywhere.
I'm going to have people that I don't think are going to win on some cards.
People that are going to go to decision.
Yeah, which is really weird that I just feel like, oh, well, this is a safe decision over the other decision I feel kind of on the fence about. Yeah, not a pretty fight pick night at all.
Totally agreed. But
this might be your night you don't DraftKings heavy and play parlays and do this kind of stuff. Figure out where we agree once we come into it. You know what? You know how we you do stars with extra things on yours. If you follow us on our Instagram, we both put out our picks, and then I'll do crowns on mine sometimes, or sometimes E'll do crowns on his, or he'll also do stars with extra shine if he thinks you should go heavy. I almost feel like if you feel like anything's a strong parlay, put the round finish or something across it. Maybe we could start adding to those cards.
Okay,
so
I like
taking
that.
it to the next level over. I mean, you could listen to 100 MMA podcasts, but you guys choose to be here.
Truth.
So
and we appreciate that.
We really do. I love it. I love it.
Another appreciation, if you could rate us wherever you find us, not even a like, just a rate. Just, hit those couple stars or check notes or whatever it may be, but just get it out there because it's coming at you free.
It will put us in the algorithm, though. If you, for some reason, if you do the stars, that takes us up to a next level. And then if you're ever crazy so kind to make a comment, that even takes us to another tier of places they find us. And for whatever reason, the algorithm still respects that iTunes the most. So take it for what it is. And if you still have a friend out there that can't find us, let us know what platform that is, and we will try to get on there. So
definitely. So, to the main event we go with a profile fight at 115 pounds for the belt. This is going to be a 5-rounder with Rose Namajunas coming in against Jessica Andrade in Brazil. Champion Rose, Thug Rose, Thug Rose, Thug Rose. Came off of huge wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, first finishing her, then winning a 5-round decision. But she chose this fight in Brazil because it did scare her, because it did make her scared. And she's one of these like nomadic traveling fighters who's really gotten herself into balance. She has had a bit of back issues. I did come aware of that. I don't think she had surgery, but that's why she had to wait so long in between, is she had to heal up some injuries that came about when she was training with the Shevchenko sisters, oddly enough. So just something to be weary of.
You know, Valentina mean as hell. No, I'm just kidding.
But Rose Namajunas, being the champ, she's actually the slight underdog right now to Andrade, and it's because Andrade is coming off a 3-fight winning streak, only losing in there to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Believe she lost earlier as well. She's 19-6 to KK as well, but Jędrzejczyk beat her by decision. Carolina's beat then as of late, Andrade has beat Claudia Gadelha, then she's come in and beat Tisha Torres in a decision as of late. KK via TKO. No, I don't know if everybody saw it coming, but I wasn't ready for that. One of the most brutal shots you'll see for any weight division. The 115er has power in her hands all the way into the 5th round. Gas tank is really shown as of late, but it's been 3-round fights. I don't know actually if Andrade has really fought a full 5, but she's shown good wrestling, gets up in your face and throws that right hand. She throws a good jab into that right as well.
JJ.
JJ the loss. That was one of the losses.
Almost 2 years ago, yeah. But
right.
I think they went all 5.
I do think
that had to have been,
right for the belt. But we really saw Andrade's gas tank in these 3-round fights. Really, she did it to Gadelha. She gassed her. To Torres, she really put a pace on her. And KK, I mean, it was accumulation. It wasn't a one-hitter quitter, even though eventually that's what it was. But Andrade was landing a lot of shots before then. She really prepped her with that. But good boxing from Andrade. But she does get very one-track mind. She throws the same combination over and over again. Minor fates in there. She's willing to eat a punch to land her shot because she has confidence in her chin and her power that it's going to hurt you more. She gets, again, right in your pocket, minimally cuts the cage off, and I think that's going to be a key point to this fight. Rose Namajunas uses the entire ring in there. She has good lateral movement, good kicks. On the back, she is a beast. She has all sorts of submissions in there, coming off of the tough house, losing to a few women in there when her head's not in the game, when her husband is out screwing around, when she has all this other stuff. She's got that taken care of and is in the best places she's been. And the fact that she's asking for the toughest fights, I think, proves more and more so that she's in the right place.
Screwing around. You just mean out like disc golf with the dog.
No, he was a part of Brock Lesnar's camp and spending his entire paycheck at the bar instead of taking that money home to her, where she was like, we can't pay the light bill. So that's the type of head game she had. Now
she's the breadwinner.
Yes. Now they ain't worried about that. She's making enough money in her head. They're living off of the land over on doing it, and she ain't saying it, but she's doing ayahuasca. She ain't saying that.
They're living off the land, and by the land they mean her skills.
You know Pat Barry, long tenured fighter in there, but Rose has a fun Instagram. She's definitely has her dog really in a good state of mind. But again, she has a great game plan. She's been training with the Shevchenko sisters, and guess what? She's beat JJ twice, which she's looking back at these fights and watching how to beat Andrade. That's going to be staying on the outside, using these distance kicks. Not a ton of power, even though we saw her finish JJ, which we've seen other people hurt JJ. I do think that Andrade can eat almost anything other than maybe a head kick or a knee from Rose, which she has a good clinch in there. But on the ground, that's where I see the biggest advantage for Rose in this fight. Striking-wise, it's where she's got the most trouble with that power. So on the ground, if she can get it here, I think she can submit her. But I've been really, really mixed up in this fight. I see this turning into a dirty 5-round decision, but I do see Rose winning 3, if not 4, out of the rounds. both of these ladies are going to be cut up. I think this can be a fight of the year potential as well. This is a top heavy card, but this is definitely one to watch. This is going to be live action. I mean, Rose could get finished in here as well, but I don't see it happening. I got a decision for the current champion. Give me Rose Namajunas, the underdog. I'm surprised it's an underdog here. Give me Rose. Who do you have in this fight?
I almost like Rose better when she's an underdog. I think she performs better as an underdog. And Andrade is a very scary woman. And the people that she's beating of recent to me, like going to decision with Angela Hill, you guys know, I try to get on the Angela Hill train. It almost should be like, when I get on the Angela Hill train, get off! Get off! So it's like beating her way back when she comes out, she loses the decision to JJ. She beats Claudia, which really is her, out of all these, even over the brutal knockout with KK, the decision with Claudia was just a one-sided mauling of a person. That nothing against KK. I love Carolina. I just don't think she was of the caliber of this Claudia Gadelha. And I almost think this fight changed Claudia Gadelha forever. Like, we've never seen the same woman in there ever again. So she really... it made me so frightened of Jessica Andrade after that fight. And then going in with Tisha Torres and watching Tisha Torres' game plan and going to decision with her and taking some brutal shots, holding her own ground, getting in shots of her own. All that stuff, rewatching that fight alone made me know my girl Rose can handle this fight. And you look and you're like, oh, I think the number one reason Andrade is the favorite here is because she knocked out the girl who beat Rose Namajunas. But it was something that you really told me when I first started watching UFC, and something about Rose is she was kind of a head case back then. And it was like you never knew what you were going to get. And now you just kind of know what you're going to get with Rose. Like, they almost should replace Buddha, and it should be a little Rose Namajunas face. Like, she really is doing all the work to keep her head on straight in these fights, to keep her heartbeat just ever so steady. And I think going against someone like Joanna twice trains her for sitting in Brazil. And like she was saying, she was scared to be there. There is nothing scarier than sitting across from the Boogie Woman, and that was full Joanna. And we got to see Rose like really stand up to that. We were scared for her in a way she wasn't scared. She's saying the Lord's Prayer and shit. I think her going... Not only is she going to gain a shit ton of fans, she will always be one of those fighters that's welcome in Brazil. And I'm almost betting that her and Andrade, they'll train together after this. I think we see a love fest, hug fest after this. Just a very respectful two women who are just at the peak of their martial arts game. I just don't think Jessica Andrade has more power. Rose Namajunas has twice the amount of skill, twice the amount of precision, twice the amount of danger. And I also would say that Rose Namajunas, in my opinion, is easily the most powerful strike that Jessica Andrade has ever felt in this division. I think she's going to have... I think she's going to be the one more surprised. I think Rose, and sees the same thing we see. Holy shit, Jessica Andrade has got to have the most powerful strike in the division, but she doesn't cut the cage well. Rose is all over the place. I love how you were saying that. She really does use the whole entire dance floor. She's all over the place. She has good head movement. She uses her kicks, mixes up her punches well, has killer cardio. She listens to her coaches. You can hear them yell stuff, and she does it right away. This is all stuff that's going to come into play, but I just think I think her team's next level as well. I love Jessica Andrade. I just see her kind of being the Jose Aldo to Max Holloway in this division. I think she's going to just be a comfortable number 2 to Rose for a little while. So I got Rose Namajunas. Also decision. This is going to be one for the ages. This is a perfect main event. It deserves the respect of being a main event. And I think they did a nice job of padding the card with some Brazilian stars. Definitely. This is going to be a fun one on DraftKings. The slight favorite at the minus 120, Jessica Andrade, the challenger, against incoming champion, Rose Namajunas, being even money at plus 100. Rose Namajunas opened at minus 140, and the line has steadily been coming in Andrade only. So if it keeps going that way... KK fight, and people that are just saying, oh, well, KK is kind of a similar version of Rose. No. And KK... I love KK, but she has stunted. Her fighting skills stunted that fight with JJ, however far back. And I almost think, how can you not look at the JJ loss by Jessica Andrade and not see Thug Rose kind of handling it more so that way. She's going to
That's what I
slowly
see.
take over as the rounds go on and as she gets her timing down.
So the interesting thing is, again, that line movement
I
on
love
Rose.
Thug Rose! Sorry, I'm a little biased. I'm feeling the bias. Like, I felt emotional when I said that, so I feel like I should tell you guys, just so you can do with it what you will.
So with Rose here, though, if the line keeps moving and she goes to plus 110, plus 120, I mean, I'm going to keep laying money on that. On DraftKings, you're going to end up paying for the slight favorite, $8,300 for Andrade against Thug Rose's $7,900. I feel like you can stack this fight because it's a 5-rounder. Both of them throw output.
Really good play.
But I also think you could play either one of these fighters on cards, and one of these fighters is going to be on the winning card, guaranteed.
Well, I like what you were saying, stacking, because we were just talking about earlier how none of the fights are going to bring super crazy knockout points.
Right.
That both these women actually get more
over
points on
80
average
points.
than anybody else on the card. I think that is the play. I almost think the winning card will have them both sneakily stacked.
So definitely going to be a way to make money. Get ready for those free bets. They're going to be right around the corner.
Do you think Rose is our Bandits bonus?
I think it might be more Anderson Silva. He's a bigger underdog. But I'm okay with Rose too. Where do I feel more comfortable?
Yeah, I guess you'll just have to follow us.
Yeah, you're going to have to when we officially get that one out. So thank you for following us.
Yeah, it's a long episode for you guys. So
Told ya.
It's because you guys are a bunch of happy motherfuckers, dude. Just kidding. XOXO.
LatB.